John, we're going to do something different this morning. Are you there?
I am, yep.
I just wanted to play those two things as an homage to the BS show. And not the Brad.
Oh, that's great. Why is that, Brad?
Well, not the Brad and Shelley show, but the BS show. Okay, get what I'm saying, John? Get what I'm saying?
What show was that, Brad?
That was NPR, and they're talking about the sacred airwaves. Yes, and with the news desert. And you know what? Once again, I have talked to one of my. I know some people that the people that do like plants and things like that. I've got a guy who's working on a news cactus farming, so we'll be able to put those cactuses
They thrive in a news desert.
The news desert. Okay, ready for the real start of the show?
Let's do it, Brad.
Here we go.
Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control.
It is the BS. No, I'm sorry. We're off to a great start.
Shelley is top of mind.
No kidding. It is the BJ Show. I am Brad. That is John Combest, Combest. John, did you make it through the weekend? I guess you did, right?
I did, yeah, and I am here despite my keeping you on delay for several minutes.
Now, I have an issue that we have to address. I got a cease and desist order from the NFL just about an hour or so ago. And they said, we can't do the show anymore unless we do it in Spanish. So are you any good at Spanish, John?
Oh, see, I would like to point out, for the sake of bragging, that I won a Hazelwood East Academic Award for foreign languages.
Really? So you can speak Spanish?
Un pequeño.
¿Qué pasa?
And that's about it.
¿Qué pasa? My
That's the extent of it. And no one would ever call me a good bunny or a bad bunny.
Did you see that yesterday by any chance?
I did. I watched almost all of it. I was incapacitated doing some other things involving offspring, but I caught most of it. Let's talk about that, Brad.
We'll talk about it later. Can I tell you something?
Please do.
Right from the get-go. Okay. I've watched many of the commercials through the week. Now they're releasing, I don't know why they're doing this. They're releasing all the Super Bowl commercials on Facebook and on YouTube. You can watch them before they actually play, okay? As a guy who has written commercials for, 50 plus years and probably written tens of thousands of commercials, I would say 95% of the commercials I watched violated every rule of effective advertising. Every stinking rule. I mean,
because they didn't give you the name of the product, they didn't give you a call to action, they didn't give you a domain. That's what you mean?
Well, half the time you didn't know who the ad was for. That would be like me. That would be like opening up a burger place and not putting a sign up in front and not putting any signage or anything like that, and having people drive by go, I wonder what that place is.
Yeah, just to add to the intrigue. I thought that it's funny you mentioned that, because there were a couple brands that I'm like, okay, I don't know if that is a fire pit, if it's a car brand, if it's a Netflix series. I don't know what it is.
It's just like, it's like, I think what this is. This is an exercise in letting the creative guys just have some fun. Okay, we know we keep you like really locked down. We have all these things. The attorneys have to double check everything, and the client has to make sure that his kid is in the commercial, and we have to make sure it's filmed in a place where there's not any environmental issues. And you creative guys, for one day out of the year, do crazy stuff, and we'll pay millions of dollars, and then back on the work on Monday, it's back to turning out boring, stupid advertising. Is that a deal, guys? Yeah, we want that. See, that's
they
what
could have just saved a lot of money and gone to the Brad Hildebrand school of putting the sign on a bus upside down.
Or maybe doing the halftime show in Spanish. Okay, we're already way behind schedule. This guy, we bring him in because of the fact that John Combest gives us too many things on his site, johncombest.com. Your name again, sir?
I'm Casey Kasem.
So what we do is we count down the top three.
In third place,
she's been a bad, bad girl. She's been careless with her repayment plan. And it's a sad, sad world when a girl will flout a judge just because she can. Brad, in our broadcast area, who do you think I would describe as a bad girl?
Hold on a minute. I had my mic turned off there for a minute. Okay, is this my friend from the Warren County Assessor's Office by any chance?
To quote Wendy's shirt when she talks to Brad Hildebrand, peekaboo.
I had my mic turned off there for
Brad. It's Wendy Nordwald, and she is back when we get off the air today. Pardon me. At 8 a.m., 2 hours later, she will be in Warren County facing a contempt motion on her case. Brad, it's kind of sad. The last time we got together and talked about Wendy, we talked about the fact that she had what we both considered, pardon me, Brad, generous terms from the judge about her repayment plan. So for folks who don't remember, Wendy Nordwald Cosma is a former Warren County assessor. She led a statewide group. She was an officer in a statewide group of assessors, and she ended up taking off with about $250,000. Now, as part of her settlement, her agreement, she could be okay as long as she paid back $535 a month. And Brad, at the time, you noted what a generous repayment rate that was, how it was pretty kind of the judge to say, just pay back $535 a month. And there were also some stipulations. She needed to make her survivor benefit for the Missouri County Employees Retirement Fund. She needed to make the prosecutor's office the beneficiary for when she croaks. She needed to provide the office her login for her county employees retirement fund just to make sure she wasn't up to any monkey business. Well, as it turns out, Brad, what we considered pretty simple terms of the settlement that she made or the deal she made with the prosecutors, she has failed in these things. So she hasn't made any payments since the December agreement. So I guess, in other words, she missed the January payment. And she mailed a letter to the prosecutor's office on January 16th and gave some sort of excuse for why she couldn't reassign her death benefit to the prosecutor's office. And then she also claims that on January 2nd, she mailed something to the prosecutor's office, but whatever she sent was never received. Now, if you ask me, that's the most believable part of her plea, is that she would mail something via U.S. Postal Service on January 2nd, and it wouldn't arrive by early February. So she's facing a contempt motion, Brad, and it would seem as though the tone of this piece is brought to us by William Carroll, who's the editor of the Warren County Record. And Mr. Carroll's tone, at least as I read it, is that Wendy is offering a series of excuses for why she has not met the terms of the agreement and or why she cannot meet the terms of the agreement. So pretty disappointing here, Brad.
John, the interesting thing about this is, wasn't it like close to $250,000 she embezzled? Wasn't that the number, like $230,000 or $240,000 or something like that?
It was. It was nearly $250,000. And for that, a $500 a month payment seems pretty generous.
Well, I was going to say that if you took out a 30-year home loan and let's say you're at, prevailing rates of like 6-7%, wouldn't your payments be like $2,500 a month or something like that on $250,000? I mean, they would be substantially higher than $500.
They absolutely would. Yeah. And that's why I think it was pretty generous. So who knows what's going on? And maybe we're being unfair to Wendy here. Maybe there really are technical issues with her being able to reassign a death benefit, or maybe we give her the benefit of the doubt here. But it just seems like just when we think we put a bow on the story, and Wendy's attorneys seem to put a bow on the story, there seems to be some snafu, and she's back in court again.
And she hasn't made any payments. Is that the other thing? She hasn't made.
That's correct. Yeah. Now, in her defense, I believe the only payment that she needed to start making was in January, and I guess she missed that payment. So it's not like she's been a deadbeat for a year on this.
Man, I don't know. I mean, this story is perplexing to me. I mean, because, once again, I don't know her that well. I had interactions with her maybe 2-3 times. She seemed like a very competent person. She seemed like she was, in charge. Matter of fact, that's how I ended up meeting her, is because of the fact that I went up there for a map of the village of Three Creeks, and the guy was, I don't know how to do that. And and seriously, she stepped forward and she says, you know what, I can help you with that. And she says, it's going to cost you. I said, well, that's fine. How much? She says, like $35. I say, I can afford that. And she personally went over to the computer and pulled up the map and sent it to the printer, and put it in a tube for me, which is still sitting right outside the studio here. I should pull it out and take a look at my map again. And matter of fact, the last person to touch that map was Wendy Nordwald.
Wow, Brad. And you know what she didn't say to you? She didn't say pull it out. I'll tell you who is pulling out, though, Brad. And it's subject to story number 2.
Up a notch to number 2.
A headline that popped over the weekend when you and I sadly were not on the air, on the days I miss Brad, on Saturdays and Sundays, and really any day that ends in Y, I miss Brad. A headline from Kate Grumke, who covers the environment for St. Louis Public Radio. Army Corps will start demo on homes near Coldwater Creek built on top of radioactive contamination. I always think of Brad Hildebrand when I hear these stories. There is a set of 6 homes in Florissant. Brad, you know the location well. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to describe that location because it's near a Schnucks off of, I believe it's off Lindbergh in Florissant. 6 homes are going to be demoed. The Army Corps of Engineers, pardon me, says it'll take only about a month to demolish these homes. But there's a little catch here, a little bit of drama. And it's not about the demolition. It's maybe about protocol or having a little bit of courtesy. Florissant Mayor Tim Lowry said at a press event on Friday that the city has demanded full transparency from the Corps about the project, but has not fully received it. Here's what Mayor Lowry said. I was not personally notified of the demolition. I've been told many times they would contact me, keep me informed of what's going on. That just has not happened. And in response, Mayor Lowry says he will, quote, maintain heightened oversight, end quote, of the demolition to protect nearby residents and ensure compliance with local regulations. So it would seem, on top of the demolition news about these 6 houses near Coldwater Creek, that there's a little bit of tension there between the feds and the local government there. Now, I don't know what Mayor Lowry means when he says he will plan to maintain heightened oversight. I don't know if he's going to put people on the site, if he's going to assign people to watch and make sure the Corps is doing what they're supposed to do. But this seems to be an age-old story of feds coming in, say they know what they're going to do, and then not talking to the local people about it. Brad, for folks who are familiar with North County, where is this location at? It's called Cades Cove.
Yeah, and you know what, John? This is really sad. I'm looking at, and there's interesting thing. If you look at STLPR, matter of fact, this was my number 1, so you stole my number 1 this morning. If you look at STLPR, there's a picture of 4 of these homes, actually 3 of them. And the one house in the middle, it's sort of weird because it looks like it got hit by a tornado because part of the side is ripped off and there's blue tarps on the roof, stuff like that. If you know where the Schnucks is, there's a Schnucks Center right there on Lindbergh at Manresa. There's a traffic light right there. This is the place that used to have a Gold's Gym, and now it's a Crunch Fitness, and it's across the street from Mattingly's. A lot of local people.
Yeah, Mattingly's was right there, right?
Right. The creek runs right behind the Schnucks, and the creek, that's Coldwater Creek, runs right behind the Schnucks, and these houses are directly behind the Schnucks. So if you know where the Schnucks is on Lindbergh, if you were to go around the backside of Schnucks and you would crawl down the little embankment there behind Schnucks and walk through the creek and then walk up the embankment there, that's where these houses are. And that's exactly what happened. It used to be floodplain, and it was essentially, it flooded all the time, and the developer essentially filled that in. It was landfill and built those houses there. So that was the deal. I guess the story was about a year and a half ago where these people were concerned about that, and they had, I think it was the Army Corps of Engineers, the guys came in and drilled holes in there through their concrete floor in their basement and took samples out, and it was very polluted. It had a lot of radioactivity. Now, here's the thing, John, I'll take those houses. I don't have to tear them down.
I bet you will, Brad. You're not scared of a little contamination, are you?
I don't care. I'm an old guy. I'm going to die soon anyway. You know what I mean? And to the point where I'd sign any kind of release, and I would say, I promise not to sell these houses. I promise to keep them up. I promise to cut the grass. I promise to make sure everything looks nice. Just give me the houses. And, and to the point where I'll find some old guys like me who, maybe some old gals. Maybe we'll have some fun there with old guys and old gals in the same block. And, essentially we'll because, what's radioactivity going to do to a 90-year-old? It might make me live to 100. You never know. You know what I'm saying?
It makes you live longer. Or you could pull a page out of your friend Cletus McFarland and other YouTubers. And Brad, maybe you could demolish those homes and then do like a buildup and a breakdown. And then maybe, I don't know, law enforcement authorities could come and say you're evading taxes or something, and you could record yourself getting arrested.
Yeah, Jake Zimmerman would come by and say, you know what? These houses are worth $1 million a piece because there's not too many houses that are built in radioactive soil in the St. Louis area. And I've calculated that if a normal house was worth $200,000, with being on radioactive soil, it's worth $1 million. I see. I don't understand this. And you and I went through this before. I think you looked it up. These houses are not that old. I mean, these houses were built, I believe, in the early to mid 90s, which, you know, for the housing stock in North County is sort of new. You know what I'm saying, John?
Yeah. Brand spanking new for most of those houses up there.
Right. Sad. Ready for number one?
Give it to us, Brad.
Okay, here's number one.
The number one.
That was a great transition, Brad, that you had there between people choosing to live around radioactive stuff and not. And I think I can summarize this quickly, is a story on the toxic landfill. And it involves Jim Roberts, the Franklin County resident, who's made some noise about a toxic landfill that he moved in next to. And the story is brought to us by Chris Parker of the Washington Missourian, Brad Banderman, state representative, along with Ben Brown, state senator, have this legislation that would help, help clean up landfills just like the one in Franklin County. Chris Parker in this Washington Missourian piece, which just posted today, calls out the fact that not everybody is in support of this legislation from Brown and Banderman. And it's not because, according to them, it's not because they don't want to clean up landfills. It's because they're not certain exactly how the funding mechanism of this would go. So to give broad strokes of this, Brad, as Banderman and Brown have it, today the state of Missouri collects what's called a tipping fee per ton of solid waste accepted at landfills. 40% of the money goes straight to DNR, the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, for funding its own solid waste management division. The other 60% goes to these 20 little, I guess you could call them a fiefdom, 20 solid waste management districts. So the challenge with this legislation from Brown and Banderman is that if you're one of these 20 solid waste management districts, you say, whoa, we don't want the state getting all this money. We need a little bit of this money for ourselves. Now, Brad Banderman and Ben Brown, and also the director of the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, Kurt Schaefer, they say if we eliminated these solid waste management districts, we could eliminate some of the overhead, some of the management and administrative fees, and the money could actually go to cleaning up some of these landfills. So, Brad, I probably wouldn't be able to do this justice just by ticking through the paragraphs of the story. So I would point people to my website today or to Missourian.com where you can read this piece. And as we discussed last time, there are a number of local groups, recycling groups, groups that promote recycling and waste management, et cetera, that depend on these 20 solid waste management districts for their funding. And as you can imagine, those folks oppose cutting out the districts and sending money to one central area.
And each of these districts probably has a director, and they have a secretary, and they have an office, and they have phones, and they have cars, right?
Yeah, and they have their own administrative thing. And I'm guessing this has been around. I don't see in this story, but I believe that those districts have been around for decades. So they have their own, critics would probably call it a swamp or a deep state of folks who rely on this funding to get paid. So, Parker goes through and he has some criticisms or skepticism from some Republicans as well that wonder, okay, is it a good idea to have the state manage all of this? Why wouldn't we want local folks to manage it instead of just putting it in a larger government entity? So the good news for all of this is that here in 2026, you have Ben Brown and Brad Banderman actually calling attention to this landfill issue. Jim Roberts went to the hearing in Jefferson City to testify, along with another gentleman who's a neighbor of the landfill as well, to testify. Union firefighter Joe Van Leer lives nearby. So at least legislators are paying attention. And in that same hearing, Brad, if you have Kurt Schaefer, who leads DNR at the hearing, I guarantee you Jim Roberts got a little bit of time with Kurt Schaefer at DNR to be able to say, hey, I can't get any action from your agency. Everybody gives me the runaround. What are you going to do about this?
John, once again, I will give Jim Roberts $60. I have 3 nice new crisp $20 bills in my pocket. I will give Jim Roberts $60 for his property. He can move out there, and it'll be my problem from then on in. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. Jim heard a Super Bowl presentation, and he's dedicated his life to pesos and the Spanish language. Okay. And chopping down sugarcane. He decided that's a more lucrative career than anything else you could find in the metro region. So he's gonna get some farming equipment and chop down sugarcane, and then sing in Spanish so nobody knows what he's saying.
Okay, we are way behind. We have to take a break. We'll be right back